If someone had told Ada and Mimi that life after graduation would be this hard, they would have laughed over bowls of spicy jollof rice back in university. They were the stars of their class, intelligent, confident, and driven. Ada, with her braided hair always in a bun, had a way of calming every storm. Mimi, loud and fearless, could win any argument. They had vowed to chase their dreams together, two sisters not by blood, but by choice. Now, 1 year after graduating from one of Nigeria's top universities, they were stuck in a one-room apartment in Ikeja, Lagos, going from interview to interview with empty wallets and heavy hearts. Every morning, they ironed their only decent office dresses, powdered their faces, and walked into offices with hope in their eyes. And every evening, they returned with rejection in their pockets. "This is our 5th rejection this week," Ada muttered as they walked back under the scorching sun, their heels clicking against the dusty pavement. "The HR woman even smiled at me like she knew I wouldn't get it," Mimi added, kicking a stone. "Your documents are good, but we've already hired the people we need," they kept hearing. It was becoming a cruel anthem. Still, they refused to give up. They encouraged each other, shared Gary and groundnuts for dinner, and stayed up late editing CVs and rehearsing interview answers. Hope was their last coin, and they spent it carefully. But fate, as they would soon learn, was preparing two very different roads for them. One paved with choices and sacrifice. The other glittered with luxury but carried a deadly price. And soon a decision would break the bond they thought nothing could destroy. It was a Thursday morning when Ada received the email. A consulting firm in Lekki wanted to interview her for the position of administrative officer. She squealed with joy, waking Mimi from her sleep. "This one feels different, Mimi." "I just know it," Ada beamed, holding her phone like it was made of gold. Mimi hugged her, half awake. "Go and shine, my sister. Your time don't reach." Ada dressed in her best outfit, navy blue blouse, black pencil skirt, and a pair of modest heels. She carried her file with every certificate carefully arranged and caught a Danfo bus to Lekki Phase 1. The office building was glassy and grand, the kind that smelled of money. The receptionist led her to a corner office where a middle-aged man in a sharp suit sat, his gold wristwatch catching the light. "Ah, Ada, right? Please sit," he smiled, flipping through her documents. "Your credentials are excellent. We need someone exactly like you," he said. Ada's heart leapt. "Finally." "But..." He leaned back, fingers steepled. "Before we proceed, I want you to understand how things work here. I can give you this job, the car, the apartment, but you'll need to give me something too." She frowned. "Sir, you're a beautiful woman. Don't act like you don't understand. One night, that's all." Ada stood up, her body trembling. "I'm sorry, sir. I came here for a job, not to sell my body." He laughed softly. "Think well. Offers like this don't come twice." She left, her heels shaky, her face burning with humiliation. She cried silently in the bus, angry at the system, angry at the man, and even angrier at how badly she needed that job. That night, she told Mimi everything. But Mimi's response would shatter her. Ada sat cross-legged on the mattress, her voice trembling as she finished recounting what happened at the interview. Mimi, arms folded and leaning on the doorframe, wore a strange expression. "So, you just left?" Mimi asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes. What else was I supposed to do?" Ada said. He wanted to sleep with me for the job, Mimi. I couldn't stoop so low." Mimi sighed and sat beside her. "Ada, I don't mean to sound harsh, but look around. We're barely surviving. Isn't it better to just do it and move forward?" Ada blinked. "You're joking, right? I'm serious. Just once. You get a good job, a place to stay, and a better life. This integrity you're holding onto won't pay our rent. I will go and do it and get the job if you can't." Ada stared at her, shocked. "Mimi, we made a promise never to let this city change us." Mimi stood and paced. "You made the promise, Ada. Me, I'm tired of drinking Gary like it's wine. If a night with that man means I get to live a better life, then so be it." Ada watched in silence, her heart breaking. The sun had barely risen when Mimi opened her eyes. Ada was still asleep, curled up in the corner of the mattress. The room was quiet, save for the hum of a distant generator and the occasional chirp of birds outside. Mimi sat up slowly, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was racing. The taste of last night's Gary still lingered in her mouth and her stomach growled. The cracked wall across from her seemed to whisper, "This is your life now." She glanced at Ada, who mumbled in her sleep and pulled the wrapper over her shoulder. Mimi sighed. She got up quietly, rummaged through the small plastic suitcase they shared, and pulled out Ada's navy blue blouse, the same one she wore to the interview. She wore it slowly, smoothing it over her jeans. She added a touch of powder, red lipstick, and fixed her straight wig over her braids. Ada stirred. Mimi? Where are you going? Mimi hesitated. Out to clear my head. Ada sat up, rubbing her eyes. Wearing that? Where are you really going? Mimi turned, her voice cold but controlled. I'm going to Lecky, to see the man. Ada's eyes widened. I'm tired, Ada. I'm tired of this life. I've watched you hold on to morals while we suffer. I want more. You're willing to sell yourself for a job? Ada asked, voice cracking. Mimi looked away. If that's what it takes to escape this misery, yes. Mimi, please don't, said Ada, voice cracking. I have to, replied Mimi. You'll understand when I'm no longer drinking Gary for dinner. Without another word, Mimi slipped out the door, the scent of her cheap perfume lingering behind. Ada sat frozen. A part of her broke. And deep down, she feared she'd already lost her friend. The drive to Lecky was silent. Mimi sat in the back seat of the Uber, her fingers trembling slightly as she refreshed her lipstick in the mirror. Her heart pounded. She kept telling herself, just one night and everything will change. The security man at the gate waved her in without question. She walked into the same glass building Ada had described, climbed the stairs slowly, and knocked on the office door. Come in, the voice said. Mr. Desmond sat behind his desk in the same crisp suit. His gold wristwatch still glinted. He smiled when he saw her. Mimi, right? I remember you. Ada's friend. She nodded, voice low. Yes. He stood up and walked around the table. I wasn't expecting you. So, what is it? She swallowed hard. I want the job. I'm ready to do what you asked. He nodded slowly as if she had just said the correct answer in an exam. Good, he said, moving closer. I admire a woman who understands the price of success. Mimi tried to hold her head up, but her stomach churned. She followed him to a private suite behind his office, dimly lit, with a leather couch, a bed in the corner, and chilled wine already poured. He handed her a glass. To success, he said, raising his. She raised hers with a shaky hand, her eyes avoiding his. What followed was a blur. She numbed herself, floating above her body like a ghost, ignoring the voice screaming inside her to run. When it was over, he lit a cigarette and handed her a folder. Your contract. Car keys and apartment address are inside. I keep my promises. She nodded wordlessly, gathered her things, and left. Outside, the wind blew gently. The sky was blue. But inside, Mimi felt hollow. The next morning, Mimi woke up early, dressed in Ada's navy blue blouse, and left the house without saying where she was going. She returned late at night, eyes glittering, and a new iPhone in her hand. 2 days later, a black SUV picked her up. She moved into a serviced apartment in Victoria Island and didn't even say goodbye. Ada sat alone in the apartment they once called home, staring at the cracked walls. The rent was due in a week. No food in the cupboard. No light. No job. No friend. She walked to Mimi's new place to ask for help. But the door slammed in her face. Mimi opened the door dressed in a satin robe, her makeup flawless and her nails freshly done. The apartment behind her looked like something out of a magazine. Chandeliers, white marble floors, a flat-screen TV bigger than a church window. Ada stood in her old sandals, sweat clinging to her skin from the heat and long walk. She smiled weakly. Mimi, I need your help. Just something small for my rent. I'll pay you back. Mimi's face changed instantly. Ada, I thought you were stronger than this. I gave you advice, you threw it away. Now you come begging? Ada blinked. Mimi, I'm not here to fight. I'm just trying to survive. Then survive the way I did. Nobody gave me anything for free. I worked for it my way. Mimi, that's not work, Ada said, her voice cracking. Well, it pays, Mimi snapped. And you go and suffer with your morals. Please, don't come back here again. She shut the door. Ada stood still for a long time. Her chest felt hollow. Her best friend. The one she once danced with in the rain. The one who held her through heartbreaks was gone. Replaced by someone cold and unrecognizable. She walked back to her room with tear-filled eyes. Her landlord had already pasted a pay your rent or leave notice on her door. That night, she laid on the floor because the heat was too much on the mattress. She stared at the ceiling, whispering prayers with a cracked voice. God, if you're still watching, please remember me. A few days later, she got a call from a multinational firm. She'd applied months ago and forgotten. They wanted her for an interview, and this time no one asked her for her body. The interview was at a corporate tower in Ikoyi overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. Ada borrowed a friend's blazer and arrived early, heart-pounding. But this time, the receptionist smiled warmly. The HR manager, a kind woman in her 40s, welcomed her with a firm handshake. The questions came fast, but Ada answered each one with calm clarity. She spoke of her degree, her volunteer work, her perseverance through job rejections. She didn't try to impress, she simply told the truth. 2 days later, the email came. Ada had gotten the job. She clutched her chest and screamed so loudly that the neighbors knocked to check if she was okay. She laughed through tears, dancing barefoot on the cracked floor. The salary was triple what she had expected. They even offered relocation allowance and transport to work. Her first month passed like a dream. She moved into a modest but clean one-bedroom flat in Yaba. She filled it with flowers, books, and peace. Her fridge was no longer empty. Her wardrobe was no longer shared. She finally bought herself a decent phone. But despite the joy, she often thought of Mimi. One rainy evening, Ada was walking out of a pharmacy when she saw a familiar figure sitting on a bench across the street. Mimi. She was thinner. Her makeup smeared. Her eyes hollow. She looked nothing like the girl who once wore satin robes and snapped her fingers at drivers. Ada's heart dropped. Mimi? Mimi turned slowly, recognition creeping into her eyes. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. Tears welled up. Ada. I messed up. I need to talk to you. Ada stood still, torn between the past and the pain. But something in her heart softened. She nodded. Let's go somewhere and talk. They sat in a quiet corner of a buka not far from Yaba. The rain tapped lightly on the zinc roof as steam rose from bowls of pepper soup. Mimi wrapped her hands around the cup of water, her eyes glued to the table. I shouldn't have slammed that door, she whispered. I was just angry. Jealous. Tired of being poor. Ada listened quietly, her heart heavy. Mimi looked up, her voice trembling. The job was never real. After the man gave me the apartment and car, he passed me around to his friends. If I refused, he threatened to take everything back. And when I finally left, I had nothing. I got sick. Really sick. Ada's chest tightened. Sick? What do you mean? Mimi took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. I tested positive 2 weeks ago. HIV. Ada gasped softly. Mimi nodded. I thought I was winning, Ada. Living in luxury. But it was a prison, a glittering prison. Now I've lost everything. And I'm scared. I don't even know who I am anymore. Ada reached across the table and held her friend's hand. It was cold. Fragile. You made a mistake, Mimi. But it doesn't mean your life is over, Ada said gently. You're still breathing. That means you still have time to turn things around. Mimi broke down, crying loudly, uncaring of the people who stared. Ada wrapped her arms around her and held her the way she used to back in school, tight and firm, like nothing in the world could break them. That night, Ada took Mimi home. Not to judge her. Not to punish her. But to remind her that true friendship doesn't always end at betrayal. Sometimes it starts again after the fall.